Hello, Midofupa. Today, join me as I teach my kids how to cook jollof rice. My two boys, 10 and 8 years old. So to start, we always simmer our tomatoes. Before I even think of doing anything else, I get my pot on and I simmer the tomatoes and I add in some bay leaves. As we were cooking dinner, we decided to bring you the whole bit of how we seasoned our chicken. So here's my 10-year-old getting some spice mixed together. So he used some tandoori masala spice, after Village Kitchen's 10 spice blend, and a bit of salt, and mixed everything up. So yeah, this was so good. Before, we had already rinsed our chicken with vinegar solution to take off all the slime. You can also use lemon juice, but I use vinegar in this instance. So just mix all the spices up. Tandoori masala, after Village Kitchen's 10 spice blend, a bit of salt, and that's all you need. So we just wrapped everything up and coated the chicken well with the seasoning. So I always encourage my kids to smell. I love smelling food. So yeah, I was telling him, come on, have a smell. Does it taste good? He smelled the spices. He was like, this is yummy. Have I had this seasoning before? I said, yes. I use this combination all the time. Well, I use loads of combinations, but yes, you've had this before. So we decided to put the chicken on our rack. So we placed it on the side for it to season, and then we got on with blending our onions and ginger, pepper, and herb sticks. So this is my 7-year-old actually. He's turning 8 very soon. He helped with getting the onion mixed together. So we were trying some knife skills here. I was so scared, but yeah. I taught him how to safely hold the onions and cut. Okay, so you'll see me helping him out with this. So for our onion mixture, we've got some onions, some garlic, some ginger, some pepper, and the herbs that I had from my garden. I grew some herbs from last summer, and some actually survived the winter. So I have sage and rosemary and thyme. So yeah, so at this point my son was saying, oh, the ginger went into my eyes, and I was like, come on boy, you need to toughen up in the kitchen. So he got on with him, bless him. Yes, so we are learning how to be tough in the kitchen. Okay. So yeah, for the herbs, we used sage, rosemary, and thyme. These are herbs that I had in my kitchen. In these times, I didn't have the chance to buy any herbs, or any herbs that I've been able to stock up by this time would have gone off. So luckily, I have some herbs from my garden, and that's what we used. So we got everything in the blender and added some oil to blend. I tend to use oil because I am trying to cut down the cooking time. So you can choose to add a bit of water, but just remember that all that extends your cooking time, and to shorten it, just use oil. Okay, use oil. Trust me. So whilst we're prepping everything else, the tomatoes was also simmering down, and as soon as we had finished all the prep, the tomatoes had simmered down nicely, and I transferred everything into a bowl. So at this point, I proceeded to clean out the pot with some water. I normally wouldn't do this, but for the sake of some, I thought of doing this. So basically, just add in some tap water to the heated pot, and swirl it around till everything is cleaned. I added the water to the tomato paste or simmered tomatoes, and then I proceeded to start cooking my jollof rice. I added in some oil. At this point, I just thought, I've added too much oil. But yes, I proceeded to cook with the stew. So here was my son adding in some extra bay leaves to the hot oil, and then I added in my onion and herbs mixture and started to cook. This is when all the smells just, start to hit your nose and you're like, oh, this is so good. So like any Ghanaian mom, there's no wastage. I had to rinse out the blender with some water. So I'm teaching my kids, I got them to get me a glass of water and we rinsed it out and added it in to the pot. So for the spices, I've tried Village Kitchen's 10 spice blend and some curry. So these are the main spices I use for my jollof rice. I added in some fresh onions and herbs, but when it comes to the powdered spices, after Village Kitchen's 10 spice blend has so many spices that I don't need any extras. So that's all I use actually, but you are welcome to use any spice blend that works for you. So it didn't really take long, as you can see, for me to add in the simmered tomatoes and start to fry. This point takes such a short time due to the process that I use in making my jollof rice. My stew is basically ready. So whilst I was waiting for it to fry, I was rinsing out my rice and boiling some water. So like I said before, the oil I had used was too much. I knew I had been a bit heavy handed with the oil because remember I used oil to blend my onions. So on a normal basis, I don't even add that much oil to fry the onions, but this time I did and it was too much. So here I had decided to skim off some of the oil, but I wasn't able to fully skim off everything. So I proceeded with everything else, cooking the jollof rice. And I added in salt, lots of salt before I added in the rice. So you need to really season your stew and make sure it's overly seasoned before you actually add in your rice. So I've added in my rice here and I am just going to cover it for it to all the spices and everything else to get incorporated into the rice before I actually add in water. So this is about a couple of minutes, maybe 5 minutes later. I came back and thankfully the oil had come to the top, so it was so much easier to skim it off without taking too much stew or rice out of the pot. So it's really not good to have too much oil in your jollof rice. In my personal opinion, it gets a little bit difficult to eat a really oily jollof rice. So I just had to skim that much oil off. And as you can see, that was a lot of oil. That's enough to make me another pot of stew. So I added in some boiled water after this. Remember I said I had my kettle boiling and whilst the stew was getting ready. So using hot water really helps to quicken the jollof cooking process. So I added in enough water to get it to have the single grain consistency that I was after. So when you add in the water, cover it and let the water simmer out of the rice before you proceed to cover it with your parchment paper or whatever you choose to use to trap in steam. So from that point, once I cover it with a parchment paper, it helps to trap in so much steam, so I don't need to add in excess water to cook the rice. So after about 45 minutes, the jollof rice was ready. My boys were so eager. They had their spoons ready in their hands, ready to eat. So yes, and our chicken was also ready, grilled to perfection. It was so yummy. My 10-year-old was so happy. He did it all by himself. So I served this with some lettuce and carrots and red onion salad that I had in my fridge, and some lemonade, blackberry, and a mix of fruit lemonade, and it was just so good. I will bring the lemonade juice to you very, very soon. So don't forget to subscribe, share, and give me a thumbs up, and try the recipe out and get back to me. Okay, we love to hear from you, and I hope you've been encouraged to cook with your children like I am doing, especially during this time that we are homeschooling them and we have so much time at our hands, time to spend with them. Have a wonderful time. Bye bye.